I want to transition here with our remaining time in chat about a different topic. I know that a big purpose in life for you that you've articulated is helping people. And that is similar to mine, and it's similar to Mountain Tough's mission. Our mission for sure is helping people with life transformation and helping people live a more abundant and virtuous life. And I want to connect that just in our final kind of 10 minutes here around being better dads and what we can do to be better dads. And I know you have 4 kids. I have 2 daughters. My daughters are 11 and 9. And so I'm always thinking about it from the perspective of what can I do to make sure I'm raising independent kids? What can I do to make sure I'm raising mentally tough kids, physically fit kids, hardworking kids? Anything I can do, I'm always looking to mentors and advisors around kind of that topic. And so I just kind of wanted to, feel that out with you and see what you've done that has worked, what you've done that hasn't worked, what your thoughts are there around fatherhood.
A few topics here, and yeah, I've definitely, I've got older kids now. They're, in their 20s, and most of them are, 3 of them are in their 20s, and one of them is a bit younger. My youngest daughter's 14, and definitely it's the best thing having kids. And I think of the lessons that I've learned, which I've learned a lot of them about kids, is the primary thing is that they really are the leadership principles from having a business or leading a team or a platoon or a company. The leadership principles that apply there apply to your kids as well. What makes it difficult with your kids is that you're more emotionally attached and connected to them. And so you really think that you know what's best for them, and
Mm-hmm.
you really want to impose that on them. And that is not the best plan. The best plan is, just like with someone that works for you, is to give them as much ownership as you can. Allow them to pick the path, allow them to decide how they're going to do things. And the minute, I often say, what's your favorite thing to eat? And someone will say, whatever, pizza. Well, if I forced pizza down your throat, how would it taste?
Not
It
good.
wouldn't taste good at all. You'd throw it up. I don't care if it's ice cream. If I force feed you ice cream, eventually you're going to throw it up and you're going to hate it.
Mm-hmm.
So when we try and impose things on people, they'll end up with the same attitude. And it's the same thing with your kids. And I saw this a lot with jujitsu in my family. So when being so dedicated and also recognizing how good jujitsu is for people, I of course wanted my kids to be heavily engaged in jujitsu. So when they were younger, they were training jujitsu by my direction 7 days a week. So like Saturdays and Sundays, my kids were at my gym for 5 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
They were doing jujitsu, they were doing striking, they do the little kids class, they do the big kids class, they do competitions. And when I put them in competitions and even in practice, I would make them go with the older kid, the better kid, the stronger kid, the heavier kid. And in my mind, I think I'm just making them better and tougher. But what I actually did was make them think maybe they weren't that good at it. Maybe they didn't like this because they're getting beat up by people that are bigger and stronger than them.
Mm.
And my kids, especially, so I got 3 daughters and 1 son, and this was really the story with my 3 older kids. So my daughters, who are the oldest 2, by the time they're 9 and 11 or something like that, or 10 and 12, they're just full on don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah.
And and my reaction to that was to push even harder, like, no, you will do this. And it took me a few months to say to myself, oh, I'm actually making them hate this.
Mm.
And what I did at that point was like, okay, I just backed off. And luckily, my son, he never stopped and he was always training. And I guess I held the line a little bit more than him, but he also wasn't quite as, he wasn't quite as, he didn't reject it as much. Uh, because he had a couple buddies and they all did it together and they would hang out at the gym and it would be all fun.
Mm-hmm.
So, so what I did was I kind of just, I had to back off and I recognized like, okay, you're being an idiot. I'm being an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
And so I backed off and it's been great. All my, my two older daughters, they both, you know, found their way back to jujitsu. My middle daughter, Rana, she's like, competition, she competes all the time. She's doing outstanding in competition. My oldest daughter, she trains every day. Like everyone's into jujitsu in my family, including my
Crazy.
youngest daughter. So my lesson from that is don't try and ram things down your kids' throats. Let them try it. And look, if you got to say, hey, listen, here's what I tell people now. My kid doesn't want to train jujitsu. Okay, you just say to your kid, listen, if you don't want to train, that's fine. We just got to do two days a week just to make sure that you can defend yourself, and that's it.
Yeah.
Just like you got to brush your teeth every day, so you have teeth. You got to train twice a week. You don't have to train any more than that. You don't have to compete, but twice a week you're gonna go in there just so you know how to defend yourself. I'm not always gonna be there. I want you to be able to take care of yourself. That's kind of the minimum standard.
Yeah.
And you do that with everything, right? Okay, you hate working out. Okay, fine. You know what? Every Saturday, no matter what, we're gonna do a 2 mile run. Like hey, you don't have to do anything else, but on Saturdays, just to make sure you're healthy, you got to do as many pull-ups as you can, and you got to go on a 2 mile run with me. And
Yeah.
that's it. That's it. You don't have to do anything else, but that's the minimum standard. That's just to make sure you're healthy and good, and you can pull yourself up out of a bad situation if you're in one, and you can run away if you need to run away. That's it. So you can kind of talk about things in a way where you give them sort of some minimum standards and and then say, yep, that's all you want to do. That's all you got to do. And that will allow them to see the benefits and allow them to kind of keep that level there. So when they get older and they do realize the true power of fitness and the true power of jujitsu and the true power of, archery, and when
Yeah.
they realize it for themselves, they go, oh yeah. And they got enough skill,
Mm-hmm.
it's real easy for you. Like, hey, this is our business. Our business is working out and shooting archery. So if you don't want to shoot archery, if you hate it, that's fine. All you have to do is like on Wednesdays, you got to shoot 10 arrows.
Gotta shoot
That's
to
it.
stay
You
sharp.
don't have to do anything else. Just 10 hours 10 arrows on Wednesdays. I'll be out there. We'll shoot 10 arrows and then you can go do whatever you want. That's just the minimum standard because this is kind of what we do. And having that attitude and not thinking that you're going to make your kids aren't going to be who you want them to be.
Mm.
They're going to be who they want to be. And so you got to give them some room to grow and become who they are, not who you want them to be.
Man, that's really good advice. I love the concept of still including it though a couple days a week because it is really common, and for sure I've gone through it where you want to push too hard and shove things down their throat. Like my oldest daughter, I pushed hunting pretty dang hard, and she showed an interest for it early, and then we pushed that pretty hard, and she kind of backed off, and I was like, dang it. And then but the idea of keeping it around once or twice a week like that is really wise, because then they can kind of fall in love with it on their own, instead of if you back off entirely, then it's just not around anymore.
Yep. It seems, and I've told a lot of parents this, and I've gotten feedback that that's kind of a good methodology. People want to have control over their own destinies, right? Even a 5-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 10-year-old kid, when we can try and control people, there's actually a term for it. It's called psychological reactance. People push back. When you try and impose things on people, people naturally push back. So when you give them the opportunity and you say, look, look, I know you don't really like hunting. That's fine. But just to make sure that you know how to work a bow, because this is kind of what we do in our family. This is kind of our business. Just so you
Mm-hmm.
know about it, just, on Wednesdays, you're like that simple thing. And it gives them control over every other day of the week.
Yeah.
It gives them control over 6 days a week and 23 hours, 23 and a half hours. It's still all theirs. And you still get them. Let's face it, if you're shooting a bow as a 10-year-old once a week. By the time you're 14, you're going to be dialed.
Yeah.
You're going to be dialed.
Yeah.
So that's another thing is people think that their kids, if they don't have their kids getting their 10,000 hours of practice by the time they're 9, I've seen it over and over again. It doesn't matter. Like
Hmm.
what matters is having the passion. You can't manufacture a champion. You can't do it. You can manufacture maybe a a regional champion in wrestling. You
Yeah.
can make your kid, if you just dictate your kid's life, you can make them like a regional champion in wrestling. Or maybe if you're even more tyrannical, you can make a state champion. That's unlikely.
Hmm.
Unless that kid, and you're definitely not going to make a someone that's going to go to college and excel. That kid has to have that passion. That kid has to say, I want to be the state champion. Not I want to keep my dad happy by being the state champion. Uh,
Yeah.
Tony Hawk, the skateboarder,
Yeah.
he would just his dad would say, Tony, we have to go home. It's 9 o'clock at night. You have school tomorrow. And he'd say, Dad, let me just land this trick 2 more times. Please. It won't take me more than an hour. That wasn't his dad. That was him.
Mm.
That was him. He wanted to get that skill. And
The
that's
passion.
that's where the true champions come from. But you got to let that desire develop in your kids. You can plant the seeds, and that's what that 10 minutes of shooting on Wednesdays, that's seeds being planted and put a little water on it.
Hmm.
Just put a little water on it, just keeping it fresh, keeping the soil nutrients in there, and not trying to take that seed and pull it out of there. You try and pull that seed out of there, you're gonna kill it.
Yeah.
You're gonna kill it. Don't try and pull that seed out. Let it grow. Give it water and give it some sun. Give it the nutrients, but let it grow on its own. Don't try and yank that thing out of there. You'll kill it.